I never expected this, not in a million years. You could say I was a typical woman, nearing my retirement years, settled into my quiet life, too quiet, in fact. But then he walked into my world. A man who defied every rule I had made for myself, every barrier I'd built around my heart. How could I, of all people, fall for someone like him? He was younger, stronger. His skin a rich shade of dark chocolate, his accent thick and intoxicating, his presence impossible to ignore. It wasn't just the physical attraction. It was something deeper, something forbidden. And that's where it began. But before I tell you everything, before you judge me, let me ask you this. What would you do if the most forbidden thing you've ever wanted was staring you in the face? Would you walk away, or would you risk everything? I first met him on a warm summer evening. The sun was low, casting a golden glow over everything. I was sitting on my porch, a glass of wine in hand, savoring the peace I had grown used to in my later years. But when he passed by, everything changed. His name was Kofi, tall, with broad shoulders that made my heart skip a beat. His smile was infectious, the kind that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. But it wasn't just his looks, oh no, it was something more. Something magnetic. I tried to shake it off. He's too young, I told myself. He's just a stranger. But the way he looked at me, those eyes that seemed to see right through me, made it impossible to ignore. There was no denying the heat that surged through my veins when he spoke to me. Every word he said seemed to echo deep within me, awakening a part of me that I had buried long ago. Could I really resist him? It started innocently. A few conversations here and there, a smile, a gentle touch on my arm that sent shivers down my spine. But when he kissed me for the first time, everything changed. His lips were soft, warm, almost like they knew exactly how to move against mine. His hand tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. The world around us disappeared. I don't know how long we stayed like that, lost in each other. But I do know this. From that moment on, I couldn't look at him the same way again. Did I feel guilty? Of course I did, but guilt didn't stop the fire burning between us. Every time he came closer, I felt that familiar heat inside me. Every time his lips brushed mine, I could feel myself slipping further into the forbidden. There was no turning back now. But as the days went by, the weight of what we were doing began to settle heavily on me. I had a life, a reputation, a family who would never understand. How could I possibly explain this to them? How could I look them in the eye and tell them about the man who made me feel more alive than I had in years? The worst part? I was addicted to him. But then, a cold shiver ran through me one evening. I had just received a message from my husband. The simple words on the screen sent a wave of nausea over me. I'm coming home early tonight. My heart pounded. Would he know? Would he sense what had been happening between us? I felt the heat of his body beside me in bed, yet I thought of Kofi, my mind straying to his hands, his lips, his everything. There were moments when I didn't know if I could breathe. When Kofi was near, everything else faded. I couldn't think, couldn't focus. Couldn't remember why I'd been so afraid of crossing that line in the first place. But then I'd hear my husband's voice from another room, and the weight of my lies would crash down on me. There were nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, torn between two worlds. The safe, predictable life I had always known, and the thrilling, dangerous love that threatened to consume me. I couldn't stop thinking about Kofi, couldn't stop wanting him. His touch, his words, the way he made me feel like the most desired woman in the world. I had been invisible for so long until he came along. One night, I finally couldn't take it anymore. Kofi had come to my house, under the cover of darkness. The moment he stepped into the room, I knew this was it. No turning back. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. There was no need for words when every inch of our bodies spoke louder than any conversation. His hands roamed over me like he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. And I wanted him more than I'd ever wanted anything before. The world outside could have burned to the ground, and I wouldn't have cared. All that mattered was him. But as dawn crept in, reality crashed down on me once again. I had to choose Kofi or the life I'd built. I didn't know if I was strong enough to walk away from him. But could I live with the consequences if I didn't?